Good morning. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. Our Zoom this morning was really fun. I always love doing those Kahoots, but back with Ranger in Time D-Day on the beach. So where we left off yesterday, if I can find my page, there we go. Leo found Walt and Ranger, and they just noticed that he was heading straight for the sand, which is where Walt and Ranger passed, but they had to do it really, really slow, and Leo has no idea that that is on the sand. So, chapter 13 we're about to begin is called Not Another Step. "No!" Walt shouted up at the beach. "Go back!" But the wind and waves swallowed his words. The boy kept coming. Walt looked down at the golden retriever who had led him over the treacherous stretch of sand. It was a long shot, but the shaggy dog was the kid's only hope. He snapped his fingers at Ranger. "Hey, dog!" He pointed out over the beach toward Leo. "Go help him! Help him, okay? Go on!" He patted Ranger's backside and pointed again. Ranger started out over the rocky beach. "Careful!" Walt shouted. Ranger barked and the boy looked up, but he didn't stop walking. He was close to the part of the beach with the danger smell. Ranger barked again. Leo stopped walking and looked up. "Wait!" Walt was still shouting from the shingle. "Stop! Wait!" Ranger wanted to run to help Leo, but he had to go slowly, letting his nose lead him over the sand. Twice he caught the sharp, earthy, dangerous smell and circled around that spot on the sand. Finally he reached Leo. Leo squatted down and gave Ranger a scratch behind his ear and the hand that wasn't holding the cat. "It's okay, dog," Leo said. "The fighting's mostly over. The jeep fire's burning out. It's safe. I'm just going to make sure Walt is all right." He started forward, but Ranger stepped in front of him. "What is it, dog?" Leo asked, trying to move around Ranger. Ranger pawed at Leo's leg and moved to block him again. "Go on, then." Leo waited, and Ranger started forward through the sand and weeds. When he smelled the danger smell, he stopped and sat down. "Come on, dog," Leo urged Ranger on. Ranger stayed put. Walt had known to circle around the chemical smell. Why didn't Leo understand? Ranger barked. Then he pawed Leo, nudging him away from the strange smell. He barked again and started around that area of the sand. "You want me to follow you?" Leo said. "Okay." Ranger led him on a winding path through the mines. Once the danger was behind them, he started trotting toward the sheltered area where the soldiers were resting. Walt had harsh words for Leo when they arrived. "I told you to stay put." "It seemed safe, Safe?" Walt shook his head. "You just walked through an active minefield, kid. This time you need to listen and stay here. We need to get the balloons up by dark, before the German planes come back. Then we'll get you home." Leo swallowed hard and nodded. He looked back at the beach, and a shiver ran down his spine. Leo had seen the fallen men on the sand up there. He figured they'd been shot when the battle first started. But no, they'd been killed by the exploding mines. Mines that could have killed him too. Leo looked down at Ranger. "You saved me, didn't you?" he whispered. Still holding the cat under one arm, he sank to his knees and wrapped the other around Ranger's neck. "Thank you, dog." Ranger leaped into Leo's hug until the cat took a swipe at him. Then he pulled away and looked around. The soldiers were all reloading guns, or eating, or treating one another's injuries. One man had pulled a soggy bandage to wrap Walt's leg wound. "Sorry, this is the best I've got," the soldier said. "My whole pack got wet when we landed." "I can help now that I'm here," Leo said quietly. Ranger wandered away. He poked around the shingle until he found his first aid kit. There was no humming. It sat quietly nested in the pebbles. Ranger had arrived in the middle of a fierce battle. He helped Walt save the soldiers from the waves. He found Leo in the fallen-down farmhouse. He roused Walt to save him from the burning jeep and led both of them safely through the minefield. When would he get to go home? Ranger pawed at the old metal box, but still it didn't make a sound. "Hey, wait! That looks dry," one of the soldiers said. He reached over, picked up Ranger's first aid kit, and opened it. "Here we go." He pulled out some bandages. Leo poured clean water over Walt's leg wound. Then he helped the soldier wrap it in a clean, dry bandage. "You're going to be a doctor one day?" Walt asked. Leo shook his head. "I want to be a teacher, like my father," he said. but my grandmother is a nurse. She taught all of us a bit of medicine. Papa said that it was good. So here's Leo helping Walt with Ranger's first aid kit. We have to care for one another since no one else does. He looked at Walt and whispered, "My family is Jewish. They treat us like we're not even people. It's Ben." He swallowed hard and shook his head. "Sorry, you wouldn't understand." Walt put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I understand more than you think," he said quietly. "In America, people like me know how it feels to be looked at like you're worthless and everyone else. That's why we're here," he added. "Part of it, anyway, to prove we can do a job just as good as anybody. Twice as good. Even in the army, they keep us separate, like we can't do the same work." He looked out over the beach. "But here we are, aren't we? Pretty soon we'll get our balloons in the sky. That will keep the German planes away tonight. After that, we'll follow whatever orders come next. Then maybe we get to go home." He didn't finish. "You good now, Big Walt?" one of the other soldiers called over. "Let's go." Walt pushed himself up and looked down at Leo. "You stay here this time, and I mean it." "I will," Leo said. Walt nodded. "All right, then. Time to raise some balloons." All right, chapter 14 is called Raise the Balloons. I'm losing my voice. The light was already fading when Walt and the other men from his battalion began moving balloons into place. Walt's leg wound burned, but there was no time to rest. German planes would arrive with the darkness, carrying bombs meant to take out the Allied forces hunkered down on the beach and along the ridge. It was a race against time, and the wind wasn't helping. Walt and two other men had just begun unwinding the cables to raise the first balloon when a gust whipped over the beach. The balloon's mooring lines were weighted down with sandbags, but it wasn't enough. "Hold the cables," Walt called. Every man grabbed a line and held on. The balloon bucked in the wind, a wild horse trying to break free. "Keep the nose in the air or we'll lose it." A mooring line snapped loose from the heap of sandbags. "Watch out!" someone shouted. Ranger barked. Walt raised his hands to shield his face. The cable whipped against him, but he grabbed it. The steel line slid through his gloves, but at the last second he got a grip of it and planted his feet in the sand. "Hold on!" he shouted to the other men. The wind roared over the waves. It gave the balloon one last great tug that nearly lifted Walt off of his feet. But then it let up for a moment, and that was all it took for the men to secure the lines again. "We can't wait any longer," one of the soldiers said, looking in the darkening sky. "We have to get it up. Ready?" "Ready." Walt secured his line to a sandbag and hurried to the winch that controlled the balloon's main cable. Slowly, bit by bit, he let out the line that allowed the balloon to rise. The other men guided their mooring lines until the big metallic balloon floated like a shadow 2,000 feet over the beach. Walt let out a long breath. The balloon's defense wasn't perfect, but any German pilot who dared to fly over their troops would risk having this plane brought down by a wing snagged in the cables. The first balloon was only a start. "Let's go! We have to keep moving!" Walt shouted. So here's them trying to control that balloon. He worked alongside the other men from the 320th all night long. Twice he heard the buzz of a German plane. Twice the pilots approached but suddenly veered away. Had the balloon scared them off? There was no time to celebrate. Too much work still had to be done. Ranger stayed near Walt and the others for a while, but they kept tripping over him. Finally he left and went to sit with Leo in the dark. The cow was already curled up asleep, but Leo was sitting looking out at the teams of men working all over the beach. "They really came," he whispered. "Mimir promised they would. I so wanted to believe, but I wondered. 2 years is such a long time to wait." Leo yawned and patted Ranger on the head. Ranger didn't know what Leo was saying, but he understood that sometimes people just need to talk. They didn't expect you to understand or answer. Luke did that sometimes, especially when he was sad or scared. When Leo finally curled up and closed his eyes, Ranger snuggled close beside him. But he stayed awake all night long, watching the men work on the beach, waiting for them to finish. Maybe then Ranger's work here would be done too. I'm not going to tell you what the next one's called, but I will be back tomorrow to continue with Ranger in Time. I hope you have a great Wednesday.